Hey everyone, if you're new here, my name's Lottie, and if you're a subscriber, welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to be doing my August reading wrap-up. I'm super excited to share with you guys all of the books I read in August. I had a pretty good reading month. I read 9 books this month, and I hit 50 books for 2024 this month as well, so that was a great accomplishment. I ended up changing my 2024 Goodreads goal to 75 books because I hit 50 pretty easily, and I just thought it'd be fun to keep upping my goal to something that I think is a challenge but is achievable. But I also want to just keep having fun with reading and not put too much stress or pressure on it because reading is supposed to be fun. So with all that being said, I read 9 books in the month of August. The genre breakdown is 4 romance, one of those being YA romance, 2 mystery thriller, and then 3 literary fiction. One was a women's fiction, one was more historical fiction, and then one was more genre bending sci-fi. So I just put those all in a category together for general lit fic. My average rating this month was a 4.1 stars, and I read about 3,233 pages this month. That number is never perfect, but I try to approximate. The first book that I read in August was Powerless by Elsie Silver. This is the 3rd book in the Chestnut Springs series. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars, which I'm pretty sure is what I've given to all of the Chestnut Springs books so far. I am enjoying the series. I wish that I was liking it a little bit more. I feel like it's a 5-star series for so many people, and I definitely really love the books and the writing, but the plot lines and the content of the books just is okay to me, I guess. I definitely think I'm going to finish the series because they are just nice palate cleanser romance reads, and I also feel like I enjoy them more than my rating lets on, because to me, the best way to describe these books, it's junk food. I know it doesn't have a ton of nutritional value, but I still want to read more. I read the first book in June, and then the second one in July, and now the third one in August. I think I'm going to try to keep up that pacing so that I can finish out the series this year, because I also want to start reading her Rose Hill series, which is Wild Eyes, Wild Love, that series that's come out this year. I'm hopeful to get to those later in the year, but I feel like I need to finish these first. This book follows Jasper, who is one of the best friends of the main set of brothers that we follow in this series, and then his love interest is actually the boy's girl cousin, and her name is Sloane. So I feel like it did start off a little bit tonally different than the first two because Jasper isn't one of the formal brothers. He's still a brother. He basically was adopted by the family. That was just a different dynamic than the first two, and it definitely made it feel a little bit different. Jasper's a hockey player, but I wouldn't say this is a hockey romance. There's not a lot of hockey being played in this book, but it is fun just to kind of have the athlete trope. And then Sloane is a prima ballerina. She is a dancer, but this book is a childhood friends to lovers trope, which is really nice. I like that trope a lot. I did like this one, I think, a little bit more than the others, but I kind of like them all for their own reason. They're all have their own little personality. It kind of just depends on what your favorite tropes are. I also think this book would have been better to read in the fall/winter. The first book in the series, Flawless, is spring. Heartless was summer. This felt fall winter. So if you're more of an atmospheric or mood reader, this is a good romance, I think, for colder months. But I've talked about this before. I just like reading books when they're set. If I can, I just enjoy it more. So I think my review for this is similar to the others in the series so far. It's pretty spicy, pretty cheesy, but it's cute, sweet, and a fun read overall. So, all right, the next book I read in August was one from my TBR, and that is The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. I didn't really know what to expect going in because I feel like everyone talks about this book or has heard of it or seen it, but I actually really, really liked this. I gave it 4 stars. The chapters are really quick, so always love that in a thriller. I feel like it helps keep me moving through it. All the chapters are told from the point of view of Hannah, who's our main female character. Basically, the plot of this book is that Owen Michaels, that's Hannah's husband, disappears at the beginning of the book and leaves this note for his wife, Hannah, and all it says is protect her, I'm pretty sure, which is referring to his daughter, Bailey. So Hannah is Bailey's stepmom, and basically just throughout the book, you're trying to figure out what happened to Owen. Hannah and Bailey kind of go on this mission to uncover where he went, why he disappeared, and what's going on. This also has an Apple TV show, and I watched the first episode, and I felt like it was really on point with how I pictured it in my head. The writing in this was really fast-paced and enjoyable. I did tandem listen to this on Spotify a little bit, and I thought the audiobook was really great too. There's some larger themes woven in throughout this book about identity, love, family, with Hannah being Bailey's stepmom. I think there's definitely a big theme of like what makes family family. This is not like a scary book, I would say. Like, it's not going to keep you up at night. So if you like a little bit more of like a tame thriller, then I think this is a good option too. The only reason I didn't give this 5 stars is I just felt like it didn't like totally capture me because it wasn't like so scary or creepy. And I couldn't quite predict the twists throughout this book, but at the same time, nothing really like shocked me to my core. I think this is set in like April, but it's honestly very like season agnostic. I don't think I would have like different thoughts if I read it at a different time of year. I think you could read this one kind of anytime. Okay, next book I read in August is Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. If you saw my latest video, I basically read a bunch of booktubers 5-star books, and this book is included in that vlog. So definitely go check that out if you want a more in-depth review and real-time reading vlog. But this is my standout read of the month, my favorite book from August for sure. I gave this book 5 stars and I just absolutely loved it. I honestly was just left like speechless, moved, sobbing. I think this book has a beautiful portrayal of friendship. This book is about 2 best friends, Kate and Tully, and you just kind of follow them throughout their lives. Each decade has a different section in the book, so there's 4 different parts for the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the new millennium. I love books that can accurately portray the ups and downs of life, and specifically female friendship in this book. I went to an all-girls school for middle and high school, and it gave me a really special appreciation for female friendship and helped kind of raise me to be a woman who is a girl's girl, I guess. Like, I just feel so strongly about the importance of female friendship in women's lives. And when people go off on rants about like women are catty, women can't be friends, you lose me, because that is just the opposite of my value system. And this book just does such an excellent job showing conflict in friendship, resolution in friendship, like appreciating the other, but also being jealous of what they have, wanting to be there for each other, just like so many dynamics and layers. And I just think this book does a great job representing the highs and lows. I think the characters in this book were definitely flawed. To me, it made the book more interesting, and I think it was easy to be frustrated with them at times, but it's like frustrating in the way that life is frustrating, where nothing's perfect and it can't be and it won't. This also was my first Kristen Hanna book I've ever read, and I'm really glad this was my first one from her. I really loved the writing style. I thought it was excellent, but I will say I'm not one to always opt for historical fiction, which is Kristen Hanna's kind of typical genre. So I feel like with this being my first book from her, it was really helpful to kind of dip my toe into her writing, and now I feel more excited to read more from her. I love this book. I can't say enough good things about it. Please read it. It's great. The next book I read in August was The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite thriller, honestly. Sally Hepworth also wrote Darling Girls, which I read in June and loved. And so I was really excited to read another book from her, but this one just didn't really do it for me. The premise of this book is what's really interesting about it to me. The beginning of the book and the end of the book were really good, but somewhere in the middle, I just felt like we were like dragging on quite a bit. The premise of this book is that this like beautiful couple moves to this amazing beach cottage with their family, and there are these gorgeous sloping cliffs down to the ocean, but there's a more sinister side to the house because a lot of people are known to come to the cliffs by their house to end their lives. And it turns out that the husband in this book, I honestly forget his name, makes an effort to like go out and save people and stop them from jumping. The book starts off with this happening at their cottage. The husband couldn't talk this girl off the ledge, and so she died at the cliffs. The story is told from the wife's point of view. She figures out that her husband actually knew the victim, and the questions begin to spiral. So basically throughout the whole book, she's just really suspect of like, did he push her? Is there something more at play here? It's a quick and easy thriller on Kindle Unlimited. I liked this one, didn't love it. I would say it's a little bit of like a more chill thriller as well. It's not like super scary in my opinion. It's a good thriller. It wasn't anything special though to me. The next book that I read in August was The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I actually read this one on vacation as well as The Soulmate. So if you haven't seen my Read With Me on Vacation vlog, definitely check that out for a more in-depth review and real-time reading vlog. I ended up giving The Paradise Problem 4.5 stars. I initially in my vlog gave it 4, but I think I'm gonna up it to 4.5 because I loved this book. I thought it was so good. Reading this one on vacation was also the perfect setting because this book is definitely like a summer beachy read. So I thought that went really well together. Definitely enhanced my reading experience. I hadn't read a Christina Lauren book in probably like a year and a half, I think. I read Love and Other Words at the beginning of 2023, so it had definitely been a while. And honestly, I just forget how funny Christina Lauren is. I think as a writing duo, they just really hit their stride with some humor. Anna, our main female character in this book, literally had me laughing out loud. There are so many little funny quips and lines throughout this book that were so spot on. They definitely did a good job, I think, with like slang and references and things like that. The main premise of this book is that our main two characters, Anna and Liam, got married when they were in college so that they could access family housing, student housing. They wanted like an affordable, nice place to live, and they just had like a quick courthouse marriage. They like never talked to each other, but they're just kind of like scamming the system. And they graduate. Anna thinks they got divorced. They go on their ways. And then I think it's like close to 5 years later, Liam comes back and he's like, listen, I need you to come with me to this remote island. My sister's getting married and my whole family still thinks that we're married. And Anna's like, hold on, what? And turns out they are still married. Liam never officially had them divorced. And Anna is just not very type A, so she didn't read the fine print in the paperwork. Anna ends up kind of like fake dating him and going with him to this remote island for his sister's wedding, because basically Liam is this heir to this massive grocery store chain and he will get this huge inheritance. But there's a clause that you have to be happily married for 5 years before you can get your trust fund inheritance thing. So she's scheming with him so that she can get a cut of some of the money. It's fake dating, forced proximity. It's set on a tropical island. There's lots of fun side characters and like family drama. It's just a good time. One of the references made was Anna being like, this is like Succession, this whole family, because it's just like very wealthy corporate family drama, which is very entertaining. I love this book. It's dual POV between Anna and Liam, which is an added bonus. We love a dual POV. I honestly wish I was hearing more buzz about this book this summer. I feel like it just kind of got lost in all of the new summer releases, but I'm so glad I was finally able to read it this month. I will say I feel like this book was a little bit stronger in the first half. Like the whole setup of the book was really entertaining and fun. Then I think it dragged a little bit at like the 60-70% mark, but then I liked how it wrapped up and I thought it ended well. I can't wait to get a physical copy of this one once the paperback comes out next year. Right now it's only available in hardcover, so I decided to read it on my Kindle, but I want to get it in paperback once it's out because I have my other Christina Lauren books in paperback and I just want them to all look nice on my bookshelf together. It was a really standout summer romance read for me, so loved it. Next book I picked up in August was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I actually got this one through Libby, so I read it on my Kindle. This one's been on my list for so long, and I also read this as part of the Reading Booktuber's 5-star reads vlog. I'm so glad I was finally able to read this one because I've just been so curious about it, and the sequel is also coming out, I think, in September, so I might pick that up. I'm not sure yet. To sum up my feelings about this book, I thought it was okay. I liked it. I didn't love it. I ended up giving it about 3.5 stars. This book was really hyped up, and I definitely get why. I think it has a lot of iconic kind of elements to it of just everything that makes a YA romance great. I think this one to me just felt a little bit played out, like a little bit cliche, and I kind of knew what was going to happen. I felt like it was a bit predictable. It is a super cute YA romance. It takes you right back to high school. I think if you're someone who's kind of getting back into reading, this could be a really fun one, but I will warn you, the chapters are pretty long in this one, so if you have a shorter attention span, it may not be the best choice. But overall, I really did like the romance. I thought Liz and Wes were so cute together. There were a lot of moments that I really loved, and it was a very heartwarming book for sure. I think by the end, I was just kind of like ready to get through with it because I kind of knew what was going to happen. It was a really sweet book, and I still really enjoyed it and had a good time reading it. Next book I read in August was The Ministry of Time by Colleen Bradley. This book was a wild ride, probably the most unique book I've read this month, if not all year. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It's a complete blend of genres, so you get a little bit of everything. It's like literary fiction, mystery, romance, sci-fi, history. It's hard to put this book in a box, but it is a book largely about time travel. The basics of this book is that the UK has set up this ministry on time and they have figured out time travel. So they're bringing back 5 people, bringing back to life 5 people from the past who were basically on the verge of death. So they go back to that moment, pull them out of it, bring them to the future in order to hopefully disrupt the timeline or like history the least, because you don't want to bring someone back from the past who had more life to live in that era, if that makes sense. So they pull people who are about to die. There's 5 of them. There are 5 different people working for the ministry who serve as bridges. So the bridge and the time traveler are basically meant to share a house, and the bridge is supposed to help the time traveler assimilate to the current present era. So there's lots of fun moments where they're learning like what is a bicycle? What is the internet? Like just a lot of modern concepts, but it is very slice of life in that regard. There are a lot of different moments throughout the book where they're just learning about what it means to live in the modern era. The twist at the end of this book was pretty crazy and kind of took me out of it a little bit. It had to do with kind of like the mechanics of time travel that just confused me and like left me being like, what just happened? So I didn't really love the way I felt like the plot kind of devolved in the end, but I did absolutely love the writing in this book. I thought the writing was beautiful and incredible, especially for a debut novel. This book was just very interesting and thought-provoking, just made you kind of think. The next book that I read in August was James by Percival Everett. I actually picked this one up due to my mom's recommendation. This one's been getting a ton of buzz this year and my mom's book club is reading it. So I decided, why not see what it's about? My mom had actually downloaded this one on her Audible account, which I'm able to access. So I just listened to the audiobook for this one. Actually, Anders and I both listened to this one on the ride home from our trip to the beach this month. I will say I thought the audiobook version of this was excellent. I am really glad that I listened to this one rather than read the physical copy. The narrator just did such a good job. I think that dialect and voice is a major theme and kind of plot point somewhat in this book. And I think that the audiobook helped me to understand and digest that a lot faster and easier than if I'd been trying to read it. I honestly didn't know what to rate this one, and I honestly kind of don't want to rate it. This book is a retelling of the classic book, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, but it's told from Jim's point of view, who is a slave. I must admit, I'm not the biggest fan of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn as a classic. I've only read it once, and I read it when I was a junior in high school, so I was just a very different person, and I read it at a very different time in my life. But I will say my junior year of high school was probably one of the most stressful years. And so I think reading it during that time and also being forced to read it for class gave me a perspective on that book that would be different than my perspective I would have today if I reread it. But I didn't have like amazing fond memories of that book, I guess. And I think if you really love The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, you should definitely read James. But if that story didn't like rise to the top of your favorites of the classics, then you may feel like how I'm feeling. I will say I watched like a 10-minute Spark Notes video that just kind of goes over the plot of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn before diving into the audiobook. I would definitely recommend doing that if you haven't read Huck Finn or if it's been a while. It helped me a lot to get reoriented with some of the major plot points that the author of James kind of expected us to be at least familiar with. Online and on Audible, this book is categorized as like a humor or witty historical fiction book. And while there are like a few moments, I guess, it was all in all a very serious book in my opinion. I thought it was very thought-provoking, but also heartbreaking to hear from Jim directly about his plight as a slave during this time. And to me, that was not funny in the slightest. My favorite parts of the book were parts 2 and 3. There are 3 total parts. Parts 2 and 3 kind of diverge from the original plot of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and Jim kind of forms his own path and story and narrative in the book. I enjoyed those parts more because the plot felt more unexpected and new, which to me was just more intriguing in general because I didn't know what to expect. It was interesting to kind of get reacquainted with one of the old classics, but in a new way. But I will say this is definitely a bit of a heavier read, so keep that in mind if you decide to pick it up. All right, and then the last book that I read in August is a complete 180 from James. It is just a light, fluffy rom-com. So this is The Love of My Afterlife by Christy Greenwood. I think I'm gonna give this one 4 or 4.5 stars. I did just finish it, so I'm having a hard time deciding on my final rating, but I cannot wait to read more from Kirsty in the future. I thought the writing and the style of this book really reminded me of Ashley Poston. I know that Kirsty and Ashley, I think, went on like a book tour together to promote A Novel Love Story and The Love of My Afterlife together, and I can definitely see why maybe their publisher or whoever decided to put them together because I think that their books and writing have a lot of synergies. This was just a quick, cute romance read. Like, I loved it. It definitely had like a little bit of magical realism. The basic plot is that our main protagonist, Delphi, unexpectedly dies at the beginning of the book, and she goes to the like afterlife waiting room. And while she's there, she meets this like afterlife therapist, I guess, named Merritt, who has just a ton of personality and is very funny. And so she's kind of getting her bearings in this like afterlife waiting room, and this really beautiful man, Jonah, all of a sudden shows up in the afterlife waiting room, and Delphi's like, oh my gosh, who is this man? And they have this like moment, but then all of a sudden Merritt is like, oh, he's not really dead, send him back. He basically was having like a dental surgery, and I guess he was unconscious, so there was like a malfunction, and basically Delphi's just having a really hard time coming to terms with the fact that she died. So Merritt makes a deal with her and says, okay, I'll send you back to Earth for 10 days, and you got to find Jonah, and he has to kiss you, and if he does, you can stay on Earth and live out about your life. So Delphi's like, okay, fine, deal. I'll take it. So she heads back down to, I think London is where this is set. It's a very like UK coded book, which I really enjoyed. I also tandem listened to this one a little bit on Spotify and I thought the audiobook was great. So again, if you're looking for a good audiobook, I think this would be a good one too. Basically, Delphi gets sent back down to Earth and starts her quest to find Jonah. And that's kind of the premise of the story. I thought this was funny, witty, heartwarming. I think it had a great message. I really, really liked our main female character, Delphi, and connected with her. She's like 27 years old, so she's close-ish in age to me. I just turned 26, and it's also set in August, so I loved that I serendipitously decided to read it in August because, as we all know, I love to read books when they're set, and I think this is a good one for like summer to fall transition. I wanted to read you one of my favorite quotes from this book, just to kind of end out our video since this is the last book that I read. I thought it was just a really nice quote. Thought it might convince you to read it, so here goes. Crying means you're feeling, that you're living, that you're loving. It means that you care. It sucks though. Now that there are all these people around and I liked them and I miss them and I can't stop crying, that objectively sucks. Jan laughs. No, it doesn't. Well, it does, but God, wouldn't it be a dull old life if you never had anything to cry about? And I just loved that. So this book was really sweet and it had everything you want in a little rom-com. So enjoyed it, would recommend. All right, guys, that's going to do it for my August reading wrap up today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching till the end. It means so much to me that you took the time out of your day to watch my video. If you made it this far in the video, comment down below with the sunflower emoji so I can know who made it to the end. Also, let me know what your favorite book that you read in the month of August was. I think my favorite book was probably Firefly Lane, but I also really loved The Paradise Problem and The Love of My Afterlife. Be sure to click subscribe down below. If you're new here, I would love to have you join so you don't miss a video from me. And I think that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you all again so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.